Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast pub chat edition. So it's drinks time. I'm just drinking brandy.
I've just got tea. We couldn't be more opposite.
Regular in a cup.
I just made...
Still not drinking. Listen,
you know what?
The utter disrespect happening in this pub right now. The disrespect in this
I was
pub.
drinking earlier. I made more golden milk tea mix today, like literally using a mortar and pestle, and was like, I am gonna have some of this tea.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I've been wanting all day.
Definitely. I put it in my coffee every day. It's fantastic. Just a little bit. Just a wee bit.
Yeah, but this is like fresh and new, and boy, I made like 2 mason jars full.
Nice.
Like I made...
Well, we go through it fairly quickly. I mean, I drink like a pot of coffee.
I made like more than a quart of this stuff.
Nice. So, yeah, I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This is a Horn and Cauldron podcast, but the off-week edition where I'm in charge. And we get to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about.
Save us all.
Yeah, right? This is like not researched, and this is just like a chill hangout, off the cuff kind of discussion forum thing. So grab yourself something to drink, and we're gonna endeavor to keep this one short.
No, we won't. I don't even know what the topic is, and I'm gonna say no, we won't.
We probably won't, but we'll see what happens, man. I don't know. Whatever. I'm exhausted. To that end, in today's topic, I wanted to talk about a magical system from a book series that we're reading. We're reading Patrick Rothfuss's The Kingkiller series.
Yes, the Kingkiller Chronicles, which is currently 2 books.
I totally got it.
Wise Man's Fear and
Name of the Wind.
Yeah. Those are backwards. The
Name of the Wind is the
first book.
Yeah. And so we listen to these books. You are almost done with the second book.
I am about 3/4 of the way through it.
Okay.
The second book is like 42 hours.
Yeah, it's long.
And I'm not a lot of time.
Already like 20 hours into a different book past it. But I wanted to talk about specifically one of the systems of magic used in this franchise. So, in this franchise of books, right, we follow the story of Quoth, the guy that they're calling the king.
The main character.
And he goes to this universe's equivalent of Hogwarts, but it seems way fucking cooler than Hogwarts.
It's also got like a mundane wing to it.
Well, that's just like the other side of the river in town.
Yeah, like the other side of the river in town.
This isn't all like they're not like separating magic people from non-magic people and shit. So this university, he learns something called sympathy or sympathetic magic. And this is just the physics of intention.
Oh god.
This is just intention
it's
physics,
your favorite
the magical
thing.
series.
It's physics and magic.
I love it.
Oh no.
I love it to death. He also learns naming, but we're not a hundo passundo on that yet.
Also, there's still more in this series. The author is working on another book.
Yeah,
from what we understand, when we say
Mr.
quote unquote
Rothfuss.
working on, he's working on it in the same way that George R. R. Martin is working on the 6th book in the Game of Thrones series.
So he's
which I
working
know
on
is A
it,
Song
but
of
just-
Ice and Fire. Don't at me.
Whatever.
So we may never get another.
Yeah. But I hope that we do. This is fantastic. This should be made into a series fucking immediately. They're really good. But so let's get into sympathetic magic.
Yeah.
Sympathetic magic is essentially finding connections between stuff and then having the cojones to just be like, it's certainly, most assuredly the same thing, 100%. And then it just works. It's so clean magical system because it's so simple. It's literally just like, okay, if I want to light that candle over there and that candle has like, let's say, cotton wick in it, and I have a fire over here, I can take a piece of cotton in my hand, right, and be like, that's cotton, this is cotton, they're the same cotton, and then throw that cotton in the fire, and the sympathetic link held in my mind between those two pieces of cotton will transfer the thermal energy of the fireplace into that cotton wick to combust that cotton wick. But you can also, so that's obviously like things, similar things. are the most powerful sympathetic connections. However, you can also you can make sympathetic connections between less connected things, sometimes things as simple even as simply a shape of a thing being representative, as well as you can take your energy to do this magic from a myriad of places, including your own body heat, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Right? So this whole system sort of exists around the idea that, like, so long as I believe hard enough, and it's not even believe, it's like, I for sure know that this is the exact same thing. So long as I know that, like, this cup of ice is the same thing as that cup of ice over there, then I can move this cup of ice around, and that cup of ice will move around or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, going back to the candle thing, you had said that you can use the magic from your body to, like, say, light this same candle, or the heat from your body.
Yeah,
to,
because
like,
again, it's physics-based, right? So the magic in sympathetic magic is the fact that your brain simply has to, for fucking sure, believe that it's the same thing. That's like the only magic that's actually happening here.
So basically, if you're trying to light the candle with the heat from your own body, you're assuming that the candle, that the flame that would ignite from the candle wick is the same as the heat running through your body, like in your blood.
The
more
volume of unit of measure. So, like, let's say, and they talk about this magical system in this manner in the book, right? But, like, let's say to ignite that wick, you need 100 ergs of thermal heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can pull 100 ergs of thermal heat from your body and not go into hypothermia, which if you're a big enough person, you may be able to pull that much heat out of your body without going hypothermic, then you can do that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the more similar a thing is, and the closer a thing is, the closer you can get to one.
Yeah.
Right? One being a one-to-one relationship of things. Right? So, if the cotton of my, like, let's say piece of shirt that I tore off and threw in the fire is like a slightly different cotton than the cotton in that wick, right? Well, it's not as one-to-one. So I'm going to lose a little bit of energy to building that sympathetic link, right? However, I get to make up for that, as well as, like, my fireplace is on the other side of the room. So it's like, it's away, right? But I'm going to be able to gain energy back by me needing 100 ergs of energy to light that wick, and that being a roaring fire, which has thousands of ergs of energy. So my like lossiness of efficiency doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and they talk about this regularly, how you can use, like, volume or, like, amount of temperature, right? So if you have access to, like, a forge heat, you're able to do, you're able to make, like, way more distant connections of sympathy, both far away and distant in, like, difference between your two sympathetic connective materials, simply because you have so much heat that if I'm only trying to make 100 degrees over there, and this thing's 1,000 degrees, I mean, dog, I got, like, room to spare.
Yeah.
You know? So in reality, the only magical part of the thing is your brain being like, so the exact same thing, my dude? Like,
yes.
100%
essentially,
the same
the
thing.
Magical system in this
is just
the sympathetic
raw
magic
belief,
system
dog.
is just raw belief.
Yeah.
It is just
It's
the
like
power of
uber
the placebo.
faith. Yeah, 100%.
And stuff.
But it's like intention feels wrong when you describe, like, the intention to start a fire, but I think that this magical system is essentially doing the same thing as intention, because intention is partially asking for an outcome, whatever that outcome is, right? I want success in this interaction, right? I got to send my boss an email, and I hope that everything works out with that email, right? So that's going to take some amount of energy, right? And using magic for intention is transferring the sort of, like, background magical radiation or sacrifice or food offering or whatever your practice is from your altar space or the temporal location of your ritual into this email going to your boss and the universe unfolding in a way that's beneficial to you through the belief, again, because this is all intention is, through the belief you have in your head that you having a glass of wine and leaving some food on a fucking plate at your altar is going to affect your email, which is a distinctly different thing than your altar space or your food.
Hey, stop that. I feel a little attacked.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that this magical practice is exactly the same thing as intention magic, with the difference of them doing the least amount of actual work humanly possible. It's just lazy ass intention magic. And I don't mean lazy from a writing standpoint. It's fucking genius from a writing standpoint.
In fact,
I mean lazy from a raw amount of energy you have to put into it, right? If you're going to sacrifice fucking piece of bread and a sip of wine on your altar space to affect this email, your sympathetic link between the two is incredibly distant. Yeah. Right? Whereas if you had like a copy of that email that you like burned in a cauldron or something like that, now your sympathetic link is closer. So he's saying do intention, but he's saying do intention, but do less fucking work about it, which is genius.
Even closer to the link in sympathetic magic, which would be easier for the magic and
burn that fucking laptop to the ground.
No, is to have open a different email that you had sent to your boss that your boss reacted positively to.
Well,
because now you're getting closer
it's simply another sympathetic link. And they kind of talk about this in the book because Quoth can do sympathy magic so well, right? So they kind of talk about this in the book, but if I'm trying to, again, we're going to go to light the candle because it's like the simplest example, right? Yeah. If I'm going to light the candle, I might go like, oh, like, let's say this was an old shirt. I'm going to be like, oh, this is an old shirt and it's cotton and I know that wick is cotton, so I'm going to tear a piece of it, throw it in there. Boom. That's good enough. Yeah. Right? But like, if I don't have that, or this is a nice shirt and I don't have very much clothes, I'm not going to sacrifice a piece of cotton for it. Now, I could trim a little bit of that wick off with like a knife or a pair of shears, then great sympathetic connection. But if I can't do that, then I can go like, well,
you could just carry candle wick on you.
Right. Well, but like I could also like, if I know that's a cotton wick, I could carry little twigs of like if I had like a twig of cotton, right? Because cotton grows in like a bush. Or in fact, if I had any twig at all, then I could connect its plant material, and yes, it's a weak sympathetic link, but that might be my solution to that problem. Whereas your solution is like, okay, well, what if you carried some wick on you, or you used like a piece of hair or some other thing,
or cotton string or hair,
you know,
in that
you
respect,
you used a piece of yarn, and I'm using a piece of cotton twig, right? We're achieving the same goal, right? And they only kind of talk about this because they're like educating on sympathy magic. So they're trying to like lowest common denominator it for the students. But like the book series certainly presents a situation where sympathetic magic is not just, I mean, it is just like how boldly you can believe that these two things are the same thing, right? And it's like raw, simplest form. But how you make that connection, how you make that path is entirely different. Right. And they talk about this in like as an example, in the manner in which Quoth does magic so well because of a meditative practice of his, right? Dropping into the heart of stone. Yeah. Whereas some of these other people can't do the same. They've been doing sympathy for way longer. They can't do nearly the same thing that he can. Yeah. And it's because he has an understanding of these things, right? It's just like how because of his Rue background and his like studying of like music and song and play and like memorizing and things like that, finding pattern, he's able to make sympathetic connections that others would falter at being able to keep up because he's quick on his feet, being able to shift the sympathetic connection to other things in order to achieve the best result or like, you know, splitting it up or anything like that. So I like the reason why I want to talk about this is I think this system perfectly encapsulates and defines in a more scientific way than I would have ever thought of, or I think anybody has ever thought of, intention magic, right? And arguably all magic almost entirely independent of system, but especially intention-based, like modern magic practice, simply because the actual act of magic that's happening in the book is just rawly the intention, the forcing your consciousness into not just believing, but accepting. You know, they say, like, when you do intention magic, like, don't ask for a thing, say that you have this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Or that you are.
Or that you are this thing. Right? So, like, don't pose a question, be in that place.
Hey, that it sounds an awful lot like chaos magic, doesn't it?
I mean, it's kind of all the same thing, yeah. Everything's one thing. That's... Put it on a card. No, this is that thing, but boiled down to, like, the absolute broth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, rendered to its constituent components in order to build a system where these guys are able to do, like, crazy shit, right? Because in the beginning, they're like, like, we could light this candle, like, that's real cool, dog. But, like, as the book progresses, you see the application of this sort of a skill move into other things.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to be expressed in different ways.
And, in fact, we see Quoth, our main character, and other characters duel magically.
Yeah.
And they don't really, they kind of talk about it in the beginning. There's a lot more talk of duels. And then as you get further into the series, there's one thing that they talk about that is particularly interesting, which is they're essentially explaining to another, Quoth and his friends are essentially explaining to another character how the system of magic works. Yeah. And she is asking fantastic, like, mechanical lore exposition questions.
Like, legit. I feel like maybe these was questions that was just asked in Patrick Rothfuss' blog, and he was like, I'm just going to write a character into this book so that way I can explain all these I can answer all these fucking questions. Like, it's that good of a part to read, dude. I actually went back and listened to it a second time, like, when I first listened to that part, because I was just like, damn, dog, you are straight asking and answering the questions that I have fucking been asking, my guy.
So, so the question you now ask, dear listener, is, well, what is magical dueling like for them? And essentially it's, if you and I were dueling, you believe a thing, I just have to believe that your thing is not true harder than you are believing that it is true. Yeah, it's just straight concentration and a power of will. Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's great. And it's not, I like that it's not like hand lasers and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, it's sometimes like clipping a lute string, or like setting a thing on fire, or doing, like, I don't know, it's grabbing a pinch of ash from a fireplace. It's such a grounded in practical, and I keep saying science, right? Just because, like, they don't actually talk about the physics, the science behind the way that this magic is working in the book. They do explain the mechanics of how the magic works and the physical symptoms. Well, they talk about the science on either side of the magic. Yeah, but they're not talking about the magic itself, science. Again, is just raw intention. It's just fucking belief, acceptance, and truth, right? But the magic on either side of it is the part where it becomes science, and they treat it like a science. They talk about, like, this sympathetic link is weak. So you're going to need 2.5 times the amount of heat to achieve the same thing. Or this sympathetic link is very far away. Or, like, the way that you're holding the link weakens it. So you need a greater source of heat, or a greater source of force or weight. Or what happens when you don't have a strong sympathetic link, or a sympathetic link, like, at all. Like, you're just using your own body's power to make the thing happen. Yeah. Your own body's heat. Like, you have nothing to link to. Candle. Yeah. So they talk about it in realistically a very practical way that makes this idea that intention, with enough belief and willpower, intention makes reality. They really make that a lot more grounded than you would think. Yeah. In terms of, well, if I just believe hard enough, I could shoot a fireball. Okay, no. Except no. But also yes.
But
if
also,
that makes
like,
sense.
if you have,
right?
if whatever the thing you're trying to set on fire, the air in front of you, you can build a sympathetic link strong enough to a high enough heat source, then, like, conceptually, yes.
I mean, I guess your sympathetic link is Mario.
Yeah, right, yes, right. So, but, like, so you can do that, as well as you can, like,
Luigi, of course.
you can both upset somebody else's sympathetic link or reinforce it and make it more powerful, right? As well as, like, the manner in which you're making that link. You can just heat it, but you can also heat for this other thing. They talk about the connection between, like, heat and motion. I mean, the reason why I think of it as physicsy is because, if you partake in the pseudoscience of observation bias, which, like, so the double slit experiment is where when you fire a photon through two slits, you have, like, a photon generator, and you fire it through two slits.
Okay, hold on.
You're going to expect to get...
Hold on. Every time this experiment is mentioned, which is probably far more than most people, I immediately become a 13-year-old boy in my head.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you say double slit experiment, and I'm like,
wow.
Every single time.
I feel like that's inside stuff, not outside stuff.
I just had to share that, yeah. Hey, in this episode, I am the color commentary.
That's fair. That's true. But so it should make essentially, like, 2 bars.
Yeah.
Right? But depending on how you observe the output, you will either get a wave or a particle, right? So, and you can do this where you observe it with sensors. You can observe the sensors can read the observation backwards in time, because we know how to make that work in physics, and I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that.
Please
that
don't.
Seems probably a bit dramatic. But so like, we can do that, but every time we observe it, we collapse the waveform into a thing. It's like a thing that occurs, right? So is us as observers causing reality to collapse in that way? Physics says no, not really. That's not really how that works. It's kind of simpler than that, because to observe is to interact. It's like a whole thing. So, like, no, it's not like the observer bias. Like, when I look at it, it changes, right? Like, you don't make the cat dead or alive when you open the box. It's not, you're not an X-Men. I don't 100% agree with that, and we'll get into that at an incredibly later date. But basically what this is saying is that in a world where the observer bias is the truth, right? By observing with enough intention, with enough focus, that two things are the same thing, then we're able to essentially make them the same thing. You're able to entangle something across a distance based on using observer bias physics.
Yeah.
Right? So he's quantumologically entangling, right? He's causing quantum entanglement between the cotton in his hand and the cotton of that wick before he throws it in the fire. As the cotton in the fire changes state, the cotton in the wick will change state because of quantum entanglement. That isn't really how entanglement works. That's not how the observer bias works. That's obviously not how any of that works. But the manner in which they talk about all of the steps that go into it and the, like, math and science behind it in the series, it's almost implied in this series that that's how their physics work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, their physics has those two pseudoscience, those two, like, woo-woo-y physics are true statements instead of false statements. Boom, sympathetic magic instantaneously works.
Yeah.
Is kind of the way that they're talking about it, because they really go into it from a very, like, math class phase.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They do.
Like, yeah, sure, second teacher was like, I'm a cool teacher. We're going to do, like math battles. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's gangster. But, like, at the beginning, it's really, like, lectures, because there's, like, a whole thing in the first book where he talks about lectures of, like, things that are same as other things, and, like, energy tables for how certain things require certain amounts of energy to cause them to combust. And it's just, like, rote memory of the physical properties of the universe in order to allow you to use sympathetic magic.
Yeah.
Powerfully enough. And to that end, I would argue that actual intention magic is certainly bolstered by knowledge.
Yes.
Right? The more specific you are, the greater the connection, like the type of spell or intention or focus or whatever matters, as well as an understanding of the things that you're doing. Right?
Yes. Also,
you know, the like stumble into you're a wizard, Harry, is sort of antithetical to the idea that like it takes time and practice to persevere in a pursuit. But like, whatever, man.
But also like having real world knowledge and also having scholarly knowledge with this stuff too, does help to improve your magical practice, because when you do a spell, one of the things that people will ask is, you know, like, did my spell work? Is this person cursing me? Do I have X problem? Like these sort of things. The idea is always mundane before magic.
Yeah.
What are the mundane reasons this is happening before you start looking at the magical reasons? Because when you have looked through all of the mundane reasons, using your knowledge, both as a person who is living in this time, so your street smarts knowledge, so to speak, and your book knowledge, so to speak, like now you can start ruling out mundane causes and you can start looking at magical causes, all the while knowing these are the mundane things over here that could affect it. So,
well, and just the same, not just as a post spell or whatever interaction, but also beforehand. Like, if you're doing intention-based magic and spell jars in order to lose weight, right? Also knowing that putting, like, only having one slice of cake instead of eating half of a cake is still gonna help, right? Because, like, magic, you know, it's that thing, like, you hear them say whenever working with gods or whatever, this is, like, a thing in, like, Norse stuff. I don't know if it's with everyone else, but like, it's sort of like gods only help those who help themselves, right? Like the Norse gods don't have time for your whining and pandering. If you're willing to help yourself, they'll help you. But if you're just going to like sit here and bitch and moan, they're not going to help you. This is like a common sort of communication thing
this is
in the Norse practice, where it's just like, it's like if all you're going to do is snivel and not like, you know, put down the fork or hit the gym, like, you know, like if you're trying to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would they help you? But if you're willing to do that, they're going to bolster you. They're going to give you strength and power to do that thing,
that's
right?
not...
I don't know that all Norse practitioners believe that, by the way. That's just a common conversation.
That's not the way that, like, a lot of magic, a lot of like mythoses work. I say mythoses very specifically here.
Mythi?
Like when you're thinking of like ancient Greek stuff or Egyptian stuff or anything like that, you have less of this "we help those who help themselves" kind of mentality, and things just sort of like happen to people. Like the Greek gods, they just sort of happen to people, right?
Greek gods. I like it.
That doesn't mean that people don't ask for things and they get them, but the Greek gods just sort of happen to people. However, in modern deity work, and in my own experience as well, there is definitely a they help those who help themselves aspect to it, which is like if you are working with a patron deity or any deity, you're asking for something, then they're going to tell you, okay, well, this is what you need to do to achieve this thing. This thing is not something where they're like, granted, boop, you on the nose, and your desire is
now
granted.
You're 6'4" or whatever the fuck,
right? Now you're hung like Drake.
Yeah.
So
allegedly.
Allegedly. We'll see. I mean, I'm not gonna see. I don't know Drake.
Yeah. Allegedly about the whole situation.
Although if Drake shows up at my house, pants down, we're gonna know exactly what happened, right?
Listen, if we learn that and we don't sign an NDA, we'll let you know too. Sharing is caring.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. So anyway, like in modern deity work, that is exactly how that works. Like where you're asking for a thing and the deity is like, okay, well, this is what you need to do for me to help you, for that to work out, that sort of thing. The deity is more like
guiding star.
The deity is more like a coach.
Yeah.
than like a Q or like a magical fairy
or
godmother kind of thing,
Yeah.
where they just like boop and then a thing happens to you. And I think that that's much more accurate to the way that the world works anyways.
It's a lot more cause and effect-y.
It is an interesting parallel to what we are, like the way that modern like pagan and heathen and witchy deity works in comparison to the way that like modern Christianity views things, which is a lot more of the ask for it and God will give it to you if he feels like you're worthy of it kind of thing. It's a very interesting
but
sort
the
of
ask for it and
idea.
feel like it's worthy sort of a thing where it's so off subject right now, but I'm definitely willing to get into this. I think often comes from the like Christian idea that those who are successful or beautiful or powerful got it because they're good people and they're blessed by God, right? So it's reinforced by the idea that, like, look at that beautiful, successful person over there. Like, they must be blessed by God. Therefore, like, I can be beautiful and successful if I strive for God's blessing. It's sort of like inversely proportionate to the reality of things. And also that person's probably an asshole.
Being beautiful and successful means I already have the
grace of God. Therefore, right?
Exactly.
It's the connection between goodliness and godliness.
Although that would be a very Greek deity sort of thing.
Yeah.
If
they borrowed from a lot of people.
If Drake is out there just doing his thing, being beautiful and successful and whatever, and a deity looks down and they're like, big dong.
Yeah. They just gave it to us. They're like, hey, that's for you.
That is such Greek god energy.
I mean, that is. No, that totally is. Yeah.
Anyway, we are quite far off topic with this.
Anywho, so intention and sympathy.
Now, they talk about another... There is another sort of branch or offshoot or even perhaps parallel magical system that they talk about in this book. And we don't entirely know where it fits in the little Venn diagram because they haven't talked a whole lot about that. And that's learning the names of things.
True names of things.
Yeah.
But before we get into this, we will talk about this in a different episode. We will talk about names in a different episode.
Tune in for part two, friends.
And the reason why is, one, you haven't caught up. So you're not done with the book.
That is
right?
correct.
So, and I knew that I could do intention and sympathy without getting into late book stuff. But we might have to get into that for like into the road book stuff.
All right.
So I think that that's a different thing that we should definitely talk about. And when she's done with a book, we can get into. I'm pretty good at remembering the details of books. Stories.
So at the point that I am at, without doing big spoilers or anything like that, because this whole thing is like actually miraculously been without big spoilers.
Yeah. The second episode that we go into when we go into the
we'll probably have spoilers.
We'll have to do spoilers.
So the idea behind naming things, because I did mention it and I do want to bring it up because it does come up in the first book and up to where I am in the second book as well, is knowing the true name of a thing allows you to command and or summon that thing.
Knowing a thing's name gives you control.
Knowing a thing's true name gives
name.
you control.
Not like Bob over there, and then you're like Bob, and he's just like, you got me. It's not like that. That's just because Bob's weird. But it's like knowing the real name of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, very coolly enough, they mentioned this, I think, in the first book. They talk about how, like, if you hear somebody call a name.
It's in the second book. I actually recently hit this part. If somebody does invoke, say, the name of something, like the name of wind or fire, I think is the one that they use. If you, as a person who does not know the name of fire, hear it, or wind, or whatever the thing is, if you don't know that true name of that thing, what you hear is the word for that.
Well, you hear the
language.
Word fire or the word wind, and it's because your brain just goes like, that's fire. Like it just kind of like rejects.
Yeah.
Which, again, this gets into some deeper stuff with naming that I don't want to dive into. So that's
totally fine.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. I don't need this to be twice as long as it currently is because I literally have at least this much stuff to say about naming. As well as there's some stuff later on that that have to be brought up in the conversation that you haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for that. Whatever. But anyway, 1, have you read this book series? And then 2, way more importantly than that, what do you think about sympathetic magic?
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you vibe with that? Do you think that that's like intentionality? Do you think I'm just like blowing smoke and I'm confused or something like that?
Is it really something that you're going to try? I mean, not necessarily lighting a candle using
trying to find sympathetic connections between like the intention of a spell and the output of a spell or something to that extent. I kind of do that.
Yeah.
Right? Less like this is cotton and this is cotton, because obviously I'm not like trying to light a candle or whatever. Like that's a super simple example.
Yeah.
But like I generally try and find like a connective...
Although have you tried?
I have not, for what that's worth. So yeah. So maybe that works.
I mean, I remember staring at objects for hours upon end when I was young, trying to move them or light them on fire. Yeah.
Easily the best magic ever put to film is that one where it's the 3 ladies who do magic and they just blow on candles to light them. Those 3 like sister witches.
Practical
magic, okay. I think. Yeah, I think it's practical magic.
I think so.
I vividly remember that scene when they're first lighting all those candles. It is the fucking coolest.
Very cool.
It's the coolest magic ever.
See, dude. I was always a Witches of Eastwick person. Not that I'm saying one or the other, right?
Yeah, sure. But for me, they're both bangers, right?
Witches of Eastwick was that, and I don't entirely understand why. The 80s were
it's amazing is a more than acceptable answer.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie, and I love it a ton, even though I haven't watched it. Like, it's not something that I watch all the time, but
watched it in the last year or so.
It was on TV, I think. I absolutely love the way that they handle that kind of magic, and they do kind of do this, like, sympathetic magic in it, using cherry pits.
Again, it's that, like, sort of raw intention and connection, because that's all sympathetic magic is intention and connection, right? And I think that when we are doing intention magic ourselves, being able to, so I believe that we should always be moving and changing and improving and altering and adding to our practices, right? I think that motion is what gives us the capacity to continue to learn and evolve as practitioners, as people who are in the more esoteric spaces and like heathen spaces and things like that. And I think that adaptability not only gives us incredible strength, prepares us for all things that are to come, but also puts us in a position where we are offering a different approach than to those who are static in the way that they do that. And there's nothing wrong with being static in the way that you do your practice, religion, like Christian and shit, or magical or otherwise. But I think that like moving and changing has a lot of benefit. I think that you grow a lot from that. And I think it also gives you the opportunity to see where those Venn diagrams in like 10th dimensional space actually exist, right? Because if I had not thought about it this way, sympathetic magic would have just been a cool thing in a book. But when I saw the intentionality and the science behind it, my mind went like, oh shit, okay. Like, how can I connect this to something that I already do? Where can I find like my sort of truth from it? And then where can I like learn from it to improve my practice? Yes, it's just a storybook, right? It's a fiction book written by some guy. But it doesn't mean that, one, it doesn't hold a gleam of truth, and two, that it's fun and entertaining. And frankly, fun and entertaining is worth its weight in gold, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
How many people exercise simply because, or how many kids were out in the yard playing, exercising, having a good time, not bugging their parents because they watch WWE and decided to try and stone cold their brother, right?
Yes.
Or watching sports.
Stone cold isn't a move, by the way. That's called a stunner. That's the name of the move.
It's the whole move, Stone Cold Stunner. No. I say the whole thing.
I mean, it is a stone.
I'm on a first name basis with the Stone Cold Stunner.
You mean you're on a 2-name basis?
The first name is Stone Cold, last name Stunner. Yeah.
Is that hyphenated?
Yeah,
or with like an apostrophe?
It's accent aigu. It's just in the middle there.
Just in the middle.
Yeah. Just stone.
There's
Axel Tengu gold.
There's just like an O with a line through it for no reason. The O is silent.
It's a silent O. Don't worry about it. But is that no different than like playing basketball, like watching basketball on TV and then seeing, I don't know, LeBron James, that's a basketball name, seeing LeBron James, like do a thing and then you try that on the court, or you hear about these basketball players or football players or any other sport, honestly, who like, in the off season they took ballet dancing, or in the off season they played this other sport, baseball or bloody whatever, to like learn from that and improve their game back in their own house. So I think that it's a thing that we always do.
One of the things that I'm particularly into is oil painting, and I regularly watch videos of people that I like their paintings of, so like Bob Ross and Kevin Hill and stuff like that, to try and better understand how to hone my craft with oil painting. And essentially that's really just sort of a long form sympathetic magic. I am sort of looking at the painting that they're doing and doing my own interpretation of a painting, but like I'm basically making my painting like their painting, even though my painting is different. Yeah. And I definitely can see where
look at when you watch somebody paint with acrylics, but you can use that knowledge to apply to oils, or vice versa. Yeah. Right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be
because the sympathetic medium
vein.
Is paint.
Yeah, well, or just art.
Yeah.
The medium doesn't have to be so physically linear.
Yeah.
Right? A feature that I think the book doesn't really dive into, because the book is very practical in its magic.
Yeah.
But I think is something that we almost over-exemplify in the way that we do intention-based magic, or like some forms of chaos magic, where it's like all sort of vague connective logic, as opposed to just like, there's a piece of metal, fuck that guy's car. Right? So like, but sometimes you're doing magic and you're just like, listen, curse this guy. How about some graveyard nails? Those got all kind of grave up on it. That guy, maybe some whales eat him. So, right? Getting graved up.
What?
Dead.
With whales?
Yeah. They're the ones that are doing it for us, guys. We got to thank the whales.
Okay.
Yeah. Eating billionaires and such.
Oh, okay. Wow. That was a
She wasn't keeping up. It's all right.
No, I was not keeping up.
That's all right. That's all right. Tusk got it. It's okay.
I was just
he
like,
understands.
why would a whale have a graveyard nail?
They eat anything.
I don't think that's true.
No, that's sharks.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even know that that's true about sharks, but like that's the Jaws like joke.
Yeah, they're like,
it's like a license plate and a bike and
like a scooter and like
just
a
like all kind of weird shit inside that shark. You're like, all right, how'd that get in the ocean?
You're
guys?
like, why is the shark eating a car?
Yeah,
what's going on?
He's just in there doing that. It's whatever,
that's just Jaws propaganda right there.
Jaws propaganda. Hashtag propaganda. No, but so whatever. That's Sympathetic Magic. It's an interesting exploration. It's a fantastic book series. I think it gives us an opportunity to improve and further explore the way that we do intention-based and chaos-based magic. So it's especially insightful for me. And I kind of wanted to share that with you guys and see what y'all think. So like, let us know, comment below with all that kind of stuff. And this has been a pub chat. I'm out of brandy, and I want more. So I'm going to end this here.
Down in the dregs of this tea.
I'm going to end this here so I can get more drinking. But yeah, either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast pub chat edition because of the drinking, like we just talked about. And we will catch you guys next time for more of this stuff. Do all the stuff, like and subscribe and all that shit. Yeah. And next week, regular podcast, same amount of drinking. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's the same amount of drinking. Yeah. But regular podcast, so I'm not in charge.
And as always, thank you to our patrons who help us do what we do, but better every time.
Yep. You guys are the best. And stay tuned for some patron-based updates. We'll do a special video for it, so don't worry about that. But whatever. We'll catch you guys next time. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah. And don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.